Welcome back. This is part 2 of my video.
I got to see them like you did. Shout out to Mr. Garrett, who our brother was nervous when I first met that brother. But when you think of, just on your dad for a second, people need to understand that, James Garrett integrated a union that structurally discriminated against people based on the access to knowledge, right? So literally what he was able to do is, so if you're black, you didn't get the math classes. Like we didn't, 'cause I don't know if y'all know the Pythagorean theorem and all the other great stuff. In Egypt, I know they like to tell y'all that is in the quote unquote Middle East and all, it's in Africa.
Yes.
Right?
Preach.
So these are black people who came up with
Yeah.
math so dope that there is a pyramid that every 100 years the moon hits the tip of the pyramid. They didn't have big caterpillar
Nope.
cranes and be like, okay, move it a little bit to the left, no, to the right. It didn't work that way. So these folks knew what they were doing, and that's the lineage that we come from. But what Mr. Garrett did, he integrated and put his individual name on the line in life,
Right.
in livelihood on
Yes.
the line to do that work, and that is why the is it local seven are integrated
Yes.
today. So there are men and women who are able to work at that organization who are black. Let's be very specific.
Yes.
Who would not have those opportunities before. My father also helped to integrate multiple job sites.
Yes,
My father,
he did.
Herb Akuzulu Jackson, and so and my mom, who had also had a daycare for 25 years. And so you look at these examples that we had
Yeah.
of our families who modeled the type of behavior of leaving it better than you found it.
Exactly.
Not just seeing something and I'm gonna put my head down, I'm not gonna say anything, I'm not gonna rock the boat,
It's not affecting me.
right? And understanding, this generation, your dad, when was his case? Was it late 70s?
Yeah. Probably.
60s, late
Yeah.
60s, 60s,
Or
70s.
early 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so if he didn't do that then the folks who are there now wouldn't have that opportunity. Your family also would not have had the opportunity
Right.
to make the money that they deserve. And by the way, that is a dangerous job.
Oh, right. It's dangerous in and of itself. And then he was doing
Right.
all this fighting against,
Yeah.
the discrimination that increased the
Yeah.
danger. Absolutely.
So for me, I got it from the model of my family, but also my community. There are many people, Mel King, Huey Jones, my cousin Ron Bell.
Yes. Yes.
My pastor in church who went on to work for Bill Clinton.
Okay.
These cats who ended up, that's Charles Stith. These cats ended up just modeling an opportunity and ability to make it better for those folks. And so you see this and you internalize it and realize that you have to take that same path
Yeah.
forward. And and then it got passed on early, and then when I got to college, I was in
Yes.
student government, student body president, led
Yeah.
sit-ins.
Weren't you the first black?
The second.
The second?
Yes.
Okay.
At the University of New Hampshire, which is a HBCU.
Not.
It's a historically blonde college and university.
I like that. I
We
like
had
that play on the words.
54 black people out of 14,000.
Imagine that, folks.
They asked me, was I in a fraternity? I said, yes, I was black in class. Was my fraternity was my fraternity. But yeah, so that and so that translated into initially in my career, I did pharmaceutical sales, Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly, and then I worked at a startup called Silverlink. But then you come back around to your passion.
Yes. Yes.
Right, and so there's a book that's called Halftime, From Success to Significance, and I can't remember the dude who wrote it right now, but we get to a point in our life where initially were just out there trying to do the success thing and succeed and like, but then you kind of, think about how do we have a legacy? How are we going to have significance in our life and to pay it forward and to do, because you have friends, you have friends who didn't want to have anything to do with politics in their 20s. And then, in the 30s, you get a little email, they're running a marathon for a Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and doing that. So you move forward on that. And so that brought me into elected office. And I would say the lesson I got from running in 2009, I ran out of 16 people. I ran for one of 4 seats, and I came in 5th. Excuse me. And it was actually my favorite campaign. We had the most fun. and people telling you what to do and all that stuff. But we just kept it real.
Right.
And for me, it allowed for me to go to every single neighborhood and see that people in Charlestown are having the same issues that people in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan are having.
Yes.
Those folks in West Roxbury are struggling in the same way, and that we are much more connected. Our issues are much more connected than we are divided.
Exactly. But unfortunately, I don't feel like that gets highlighted enough, and those connections are made. So it always looks like it's just a black community that's struggling, and then of course they only highlight certain neighborhoods where it's bad, or once again, folks are definitely having a hard time, which isn't always the case, and that's the reason why I wanted to have this type of a conversation, and definitely starting this podcast. I want to share a different narrative about the city of Boston. Yes, we have our challenges, as we do throughout this nation, but we are, especially black folks, definitely out here making moves and pushing forward to bring the community forward, which, as you just finished sharing with all of us, you've been doing essentially from the beginning, right? Because starting with your parents, and then as you started to become older, you were able to take some initiative and do some things on your own.
Yeah, my parents were really overprotective, so when I was at high school, they wouldn't let me leave the house unless I had something to do, like formal. So I signed up for every single club morning. This is the only way I thought it was able to. I was like, I'm on the usher board. Just stuff that I wasn't even good at.
Hockey.
Yeah, exactly. Just all kinds of stuff.
Just so you can leave the house.
And the thing was, and I look at it like I'm not extraordinary in any way. I just had extraordinary opportunities. Yeah. And what it is our job to do is to provide those same opportunities for people who are coming along after us. And
but you could have left, which is, I feel like, oftentimes is an easy decision for black folks here to make, right? So, for example, you always hear about people speak of Atlanta's the new black Hollywood, and a lot of black folks from the North will find themselves like, oh, they just have to go there. They're going to live a better life. You could have easily have done something like that. You perhaps would have had an even larger stage. Perhaps you'd be even bigger than what you are now. Why didn't you leave the city?
Because Boston is the city I love, and I believe the thing I love about Boston is also the thing that makes Boston the biggest pain in the butt ever.
And it's not the snow?
No, it's not the snow. It's actually the thing that's frustrating, and also I love, is that Boston hasn't arrived yet.
That's interesting.
And so by the way, in New York, there's probably a whole nightclub for 6'2", 270-pound black men. That's all. Like, it's so specialized. You can get a fake Rolex at any time of day or night. There's all this specialty. For me, I think about Boston as a city that we have to get there, and that we don't get there by folks like us leaving.
Yes.
We get there by staying and fighting, and by elevating Boston to what it needs to be. One of the things that we have to deal with is, one, Boston needs to welcome people.
Preach.
Because I usually tease, so typically, I always tease that the way that Boston welcomes people traditionally is we ticket or tow their car.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
So you're like,
that's
like,
real.
hey, how you doing? It's nice to meet you. You can go get your vehicle over in Brighton. It got towed from Mattapan. You can go to Brighton and get your car and pay $130.
Cash only.
Yeah, cash only, right? So I think in particular for folks in general, but in particular Black folks, we have to do a welcome to Boston.
Yeah,
we have to
agree.
welcome people. And this piece around Boston, because we got this little funky attitude, well, my family has been here for, okay, that's great that your family's been here a long time, right?
Okay.
So we still have to, Boston's great because all these colleges and universities, 65 schools within a 15-mile radius. We've got a couple hundred thousand college students. And so that is our actual strength. So we need to make sure that we actually keep those folks here. We lose over 50% of those college students within a 6-month period after their graduation. And they're not going to places that are cheaper. If they were going to Oklahoma.
See, I thought they were.
Yeah, they're going to Oklahoma or some part of Texas or whatever. They're going to, first place they go to is New York.
Oh, definitely not cheaper than us.
Then San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Then LA. Then DC, and then Chicago. So you're not into the 5th place that there is potentially a place that's a little bit cheaper. So that is one of the pieces. So I think it's really one of the data points that we found is that people do internships and get connected.
Right.
They stay. Right.
Very true.
I also think Boston has not arrived in fun. Nobody's coming to Boston and be like, yeah, we're going to turn up.
Legit, I was just talking about
the city of Boston or whatever.
Yes, I was just talking about that with a friend. I was like, yeah, I would say especially after the age of 30. I mean, you know, we have some options, but then by the time you hit that 30 mark, all of a sudden they become fewer and fewer and fewer.
And if you talk to folks younger than us, they would also say it's not even. So remember, we had nightclubs that were 18 plus.
Yes.
There are no nightclubs that are 18 plus in the city
Sorry,
of Boston now, right? So the problem is you're also not teaching people a culture of responsible partying, right? So that becomes an issue. But the other piece is in terms of keeping folks here, when people go to nightclubs, they have fun, and sometimes people meet people.
Yes, and I hear we're struggling in that area. A lot of single folks are not able to meet their person here.
Right?
Yeah.
So then people meet people, and then sometimes they meet them for longer periods of time. They end up pairing off, and then they have families.
Absolutely.
And so we need to make sure that we are we have our economy is based on education, medication, and technology, right? So eds, meds, and tech. And so those people who are working at Facebook or working at Vertex, or they're working late. Why isn't that why do we stop serving beverages at 2 a.m.? Why does the nightclub have to and the stupidest part about nightclubs, and just Jill on this one, nightclubs closing at 2. So the stupidest part ever, and this is pre-COVID, you have cabs, which we only had 1,750 cabs in the city. So you close all of the nightclubs all at the same time.
Yes.
You push all of these drunk people who just had 4 shots out onto the street, and you wonder why there's bedlam and mayhem and all the other stuff that's going on.
Absolutely.
So now we have to be thinking about, I believe, a 24-hour economy, a city that doesn't sleep, and then also one that is connected for startups. And also for people to connect with each other and to have fun. So that's one of the Bostons I want to be part of. The other Boston I want to be part of is closing the wealth gap.
Which I think you're actually on track to doing. This is a great segue to your new venture, which is opening your own cannabis dispensary, and you're going to have a lounge. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about that? And congrats on that. I think it's coming soon.
Coming soon to a Faneuil Hall near you. So we are doing.
So for all visitors,
yes, all visitors, and by 21, hopefully all
21 plus. I
just want to make sure this is PG plus 3. And so 3 years ago, when I got out of office, when you run I ran for mayor in 2017. I came in second to Mayor Walsh. We got to bring up a lot of the issues that everyone now is running on, and they at the time said I was radical and I was pushing too hard and oh my goodness. But post George Floyd, very different world.
Yes.
People are embracing things in a very different way. So I had, actually in 2016, I was approached by the ACLU, Chanel Lindsay, Shalene Title, and Rasan Hall, and they said, Tito, we want you to sign on to helping legalize recreational cannabis
Yes.
in the state.
Mm-hmm.
You know who my mama is. So I'm like,
Yeah.
my mama's her folks gonna be looking at, I knew that boy is over there smoking them tweeds. It's like, yeah. So I initially wanted to kind of understand why, and they showed me a piece of data that made me get up off of the fence. And that data was a data point that showed people who are, black folk in the state of Massachusetts, a state where there's less than 7% black people, had a 300% higher chance of being arrested for possession of marijuana, and a 700% higher chance of being arrested for distribution. Why is this? It's significant because in 2008, so the study that happened was from 2008 to 2014.
Okay.
2008 being the year that the state of Massachusetts basically decriminalized possession of marijuana. If you had an ounce or less, it was supposed to be a ticket.
Right.
But from 2008 to 2014, 300% higher chance of being arrested for possession, which we just said was legal and a ticket.
Right.
So that really motivated me. So I became the first elected official in the state to advocate for this, and so was really excited to see it pass. I had an opportunity based on my background in pharmaceutical sales, marketing and R&D and all that other stuff to jump into the cannabis space. And so we are opening Boston's first 7-story experiential.
That's major. 7 stories.
7 stories.
Black owned.
Black owned cannabis shop, a cannabis retail store, as well as bar and lounge. And so the first 2 floors of our building are going to be a really cool, connected cannabis retail space. And the basement, we're going to be doing production of edibles. So we have a marijuana infused product business there. And then the top 2 floors are going to be a lounge. And the top floor is a bar that has a retractable glass roof. It's really, really amazing, and definitely want to get you over to see that.
So you're doing that fun piece. You're trying to bring in some of that Boston fun stuff. You said
That's
you're getting them both.
so the thing is, we want to, in the cannabis space, one of the issues that we also have is very little black ownership, less than 7%.
Which is why I'm super excited for you and others that I know have already opened theirs.
Yeah, right. So, when you look at in the state of Massachusetts, the first one to open was Pure Oasis. This is Kobe Evans and Kevin Hart in Grove Hall. We also wanted to be thoughtful that all of the black-owned businesses can't be in black neighborhoods. It's ridiculous.
Preach.
Right? That would be very unfortunate if that was the case. I had an opportunity with a relationship that I had previously with a person who owns a bunch of properties in the city to have this conversation and to be able to get into this space. One of the things that's critical about the cannabis industry, and in particular for our concept, which we call Apex Noir.
Yes.
So the apex, the pinnacle, the top of, is that we base everything around giving back. So our company, parent company, is called Verdict Reparative. So you hear that word repair and reparations that are in there. So one of the things that we start with is having 20% of our employees who are going to be offered jobs are those individuals who have a Corey or are related or have parents who have a Corey. For those who don't know what a Corey is, that's a criminal record. And so, we don't throw people away. And in particular,
I like that. That is so important, because then we're later on saying, oh, well, folks don't want to work or have you, but if we keep penalizing them for something that they've allegedly already done their time for, how are they supposed to move forward?
right? And no one's gonna lay down and die. And in any other space, you would call this transferable skills.
Completely agree with
Right?
that.
So, interestingly, with the government, if they need to get somebody who's a hacker, they go get someone who's a hacker, right?
Yeah.
And so, these individuals who've actually sold marijuana, who've been convicted of selling marijuana, deserve to also be able to take care of themselves and their family, and to be able to turn that page.
I'm
And so
so
we're,
for that.
yeah, right. So, and also if we're thinking about, one of the issues that I have is the state wants to really incent people who only have possession charges,
Mhm.
which is stupid. So for me, if you had a trafficking charge or a distribution charge, that means you had a team. You had staff. You had employees. So you actually have assets to bring to the table that are very different than someone who just smokes weed.
Right.
And so we want to actually be able to connect with those individuals and also put them on staff and give them an opportunity. So that's where we really start around this concept of how do we repair the failed war on drugs. We're offering a 401k,
Yeah.
which most organizations don't offer, and giving people an opportunity to save for the future as well as match them around that. We start at $20 an hour. So we actually
That's
are
nice.
making sure that we actually try to meet people at a place that's going to have them financially healthy,
Right.
so they can help our consumers be also healthy too. And we also are working to make sure that we have relationships with minority.
Stay tuned for my next video.
Y'all be caught up in your feelings, we be chillin', you be feeling some type of way, cause we got a smile on our face, we be doing our thing, switching lanes, we ain't playing no games, I know it's your dream, take it down on the winning team.